Things I wish I'd known about reading tarot before I started reading tarot. Hey folks, I'm Nancy. Welcome to Hidden Magic Tarot. And today I want to talk about some things that I wish I had known about reading tarot and oracle before I started reading tarot and oracle. I'm making this a tag in case anybody else wants to jump in, hoping that we can share our good advice and our experience. And this isn't just for experienced tarot readers. This is for anyone. You may have just started a month ago. Share with us. Let us know what you wish you would have known before you started reading. While I chat, I'll just flip through some decks, some of my favorite decks. This is Tarot of Oneness. Let's get started. These are the things I wish I'd known about reading before I started reading. There is no right way to read tarot. There are ethical ways to read tarot. There are unethical ways to read tarot. But there is no right way. I personally think anyone who tells you that there's a right way is either doing a sales pitch or delusional or still stuck in rules that came from a strict religious or patriarchal upbringing. And we don't need to transfer that to tarot. Tarot is freedom. There is no right way to do it. There's no right way to approach the cards. There's no right way or wrong way to shuffle the cards. Yes, I have had people tell me that the way I shuffle is going to get me an inaccurate reading. I don't believe it. Just don't believe it. Don't accept those things. There's no right or wrong way to work with these cards. As I said earlier, I am a secular reader. Other people use tarot to connect with spirits or ancestors or gods. I think tarot is a psychological exercise, an exercise in creative thinking. And other people think it's magical or like a deeply spiritual connection with, spirits and guides and gods. And nobody's right and nobody's wrong about that. Tarot is open to all sorts of interpretations, all sorts of approaches. But like I said, I think there are ethical ways to approach tarot and unethical ways to approach tarot. So I would say the main thing is to practice, to get to know your cards, to get to know yourself, and to do what feels right to you. Try a bunch of different things out and know that whatever feels right to you, trust that intuition in yourself and do what feels right. Another thing I wish I'd known about tarot before I started reading tarot is that there isn't a single meaning to the cards. The cards mean different things in different circumstances. Certainly there are accepted meanings of the cards or traditional meanings of the cards, but we have to be flexible in order to apply those cards to a variety of questions and a variety of situations and people. We've got to trust our intuition about what we're reading on and who we're reading for. When I first started, I just hopped online and I started looking up meanings, and it's these long lists of keywords. And I thought that that was the way to understand tarot, and I set about trying to memorize it. But that did not make me a good reader. It sort of, to a certain degree, just frustrated me. Now, I personally do like keywords, and I use keywords with my cards. But what I have discovered after reading for a few years and for a lot of people is that those keywords all do sort of relate to each other. I think that there's like a core meaning of a card, and from that there's like a constellation of meanings around it. So if you've seen like mind maps, I think that these cards and their meanings and those lists of keywords are mind maps. So let's look at, for example, the Fool. Maybe the base keyword here is innocence. Now, depending on the situation, depending on who you're reading for, that could mean naivete. That could mean being a beginner. It could mean curiosity. It could mean not understanding a situation. It could mean playfulness. So all of these meanings, and there are many, many more, are connected to a core meaning of this card. And the job for you as a reader is to intuit which of those meanings is the most appropriate for the situation. But you don't have to memorize these lists of keywords because they are connected, and it really involves your intuition and your creativity as a reader to understand how that card applies, not just to that reading, but how it applies with other cards that are around it. On that same train of thought, I think that the best way to become a good tarot reader is to start doing readings as soon as possible. I've seen a lot of people who think they have to have all of the cards memorized before they can read with them. And I would not do it that way. I'd start with readings first, because applying these cards and their meanings to multiple situations is what a reader does. It's not just about understanding what the cards mean and knowing what their symbols represent. It's not about memorizing something and filling in the blanks. It's about interpreting the situation, interpreting the card, actually reading the card. So even if you do readings that are like readings on reality TV, readings on celebrity gossip, those readings will really help you to become a better reader. And they will also help you learn the cards because you're actually applying the card. Instead of just trying to memorize flashcards, you're applying it to a situation. One of the main things I realized, and it improved my readings vastly, is that I needed to stop obsessing about being right. When I worry about being right, my ego is getting involved, and my ego is not going to help me give a better reading to myself or to anyone else. A tarot deck is 78 pieces of great advice. So instead of worrying about being right and getting my ego involved, I instead focus on being helpful. I focus on listening to the cards. I focus on listening to the person I'm with. And that has made all the difference in my readings. When I worry about being right, I am focused on me. And I am focused on some egotistical sense of not being foolish or vulnerable or something like that. And so if I can focus on the cards and what they're trying to say, and I can focus on the person who has come to me for a reading and set myself aside, the readings got so much better. And I started having so much more fun, and I could interpret the cards so much better when I started doing that. And this may just, of course, be my approach, right? I do a therapeutic approach, a psychological approach. And so, like I said, there isn't a right answer in any given situation. I also don't believe in a future that I can read. The future doesn't exist. So it's not about being right. It's about looking for a path forward for the person I'm reading for, even if that's me. And, you know, people come to tarot when they're feeling stuck. They come when they're feeling tender, and they're maybe have kind of swirling thoughts that is making it hard for them to make a good choice for themselves. But I feel like they have the answer within themselves. I'm not some great oracle who's like reaching to the heavens to tell you what to do. I'm helping you to find the answer that's inside of you. I am a conduit to their truth. I truly don't know anything about your life that you don't know. You're the expert in your life, not me. So if you come to me for a reading, we are uncovering that truth together. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you how to think about things. I'm not telling you what somebody else is doing or thinking. I am hearing you, I'm listening to you, I'm listening to the cards, and we're uncovering the truth. We're uncovering your best path forward. And if I worry about being right or about impressing them, then it's about me. And I've got to take that out of the equation if I'm going to do a good reading for somebody. This was seriously the most important thing. Like, my readings just cracked open when I let go of this sense that I had to impress somebody, or I had to be right, or I was doing it wrong. It made all the difference in how I approached my cards and the people who came to me for readings. I stopped second guessing myself. I started trusting myself, trusting the cards. And gosh, I just can't, I can't, it just made all the difference. Another thing that made a difference to me was spending time connecting with my decks. I truly don't believe you have to get a certain deck or start with a certain deck. I think there's this sort of accepted wisdom out there that you should start with the Rider-Waite-Smith, and I really disagree with that. I think you should know whatever deck you're using. I think you should know what system it's based on, but you don't have to start with Rider-Waite-Smith. I think the advice comes because there's so much like free knowledge out there about that system. And so if you start with Rider-Waite-Smith, you've just got access to all of this knowledge, all these videos, all these websites, and even published books. So like not free knowledge necessarily, but a lot of them are based on Rider-Waite-Smith. And so a lot of people will advise you to start with Rider-Waite-Smith. But what if you don't connect with that deck? What if you don't feel drawn to use that deck? What if the art just doesn't speak to you? Well, then find a deck that does speak to you. Find a good guidebook and start with that deck. And then know what system it is so that if you do get more, you know whether you're kind of working with a different system or if it's a different interpretation of the same system. For example, this is Curious Travels, and this is based on Rider-Waite-Smith. I read Rider-Waite-Smith. I'm starting to get into Marseille, but most of the decks I have are Rider-Waite-Smith, and I do check to see what system they're based on because that is the baseline system that I understand. So then I'm using this new art to connect with alternative meanings and to kind of grasp my intuition in a different way. And those choices, that knowledge helps me to find new decks, but I do not feel restricted. And I think it's wrong advice to tell someone they have to start with the Rider-Waite-Smith. For me, the most important thing is to have a deck and connect with it, to get to know with it, to be familiar with it. Highly recommend, as someone who does do paid readings, don't use a new deck in a paid reading because that connection to your deck and the way the deck speaks to you because of that connection is going to make for a better reading. I wouldn't use a paid reading to practice with a new deck. So one of the things I do is I do TikTok lives when I get a new deck, and I offer free readings. And I let people know that it's a new deck to me, and that's why it's a free reading, and I'm trying to get some practice and get to know it. I also do a lot of readings for myself when I get a new deck. I try to use it as much as possible in the weeks after I get it. And if I'm struggling to connect with it, I'll also read through the guidebook. I'll just do whatever I can to get to know it. And you won't connect with every deck, that's fine. But I would say that actually knowing your deck and having that relationship with your deck is going to take you so far. We see a lot of deck collections out here. We see a lot of reviews for decks, and it's really fun to get new decks. It's so fun. But I would say building that relationship makes a huge difference and really, really unlocks your readings when you know a deck and the deck knows you. You don't have to use Kabbalah or astrology in your readings. A lot of people do. They offer another layer to your readings, but you don't have to use them. I felt when I first started, I was seeing all these people who were layering astrology and Kabbalah onto their readings, and I felt like it was just so, I don't know, intimidating to do that. I personally have no interest in astrology, to be honest. I don't know anything about it, and I'm currently not all that interested in learning about it. And I also have absolutely no interest in trying to apply Kabbalah. And this is because I am not Jewish. I was raised Roman Catholic. I'm now an atheist. And the Kabbalah that is applied to tarot cards and in Western esotericism is a Christian's understanding of Kabbalah. And for me, it's just a bad taste in my mouth to try to learn that and apply it to tarot cards. The Kabbalah was added long after tarot was developed, and it is sort of a stolen tradition. Kabbalah, it can really truly only be understood if you also understand Judaism. And Christians do not understand Judaism. Christianity is so very, very different from Judaism. So I personally do not apply Kabbalah or astrology to my tarot readings and my understanding of the cards. Now, there may come a day that I'm interested in astrology and applying that. I've seen a lot of people say it's a really nice additional layer. It was also added, after tarot was developed, and that a lot of people who know astrology or have learned astrology really like that. So I'm open to learning it, but at least to start, you really don't have to do that. You can start with either keyword meanings or focus on the ranks and the suits. You can also, just apply the art interpretation to the readings. So numerology, suits, and art is really baseline, all you need to get started, and it will take you very far. You don't have to add additional layers if you don't want to. I also wish I'd known that you don't have to use reversals, but reversals are part of tarot anyway. Every card has a light and a shadow to it. And I have to give credit where credit's due. This concept really broke open for me watching Kellyanne Maddox's videos, because she talks a lot about the light and the shadow of the cards, that there are no good cards or bad cards in tarot. Everything has more than one side to it. There's the healed version of the card, there's the unhealed version of the card, there's the proactive version of the card and the reactive version of the card. So I personally don't read with reversals, but I do read the whole card. And so what I mean by that is, instead of just focusing on, a single keyword that gives you either sort of a good or a bad meaning, right? I look at the light and the shadow, the good and the bad. I look at the whole constellation of possible meanings, and I take those into consideration when I read. So just a little bit about what I mean by light and shadow. Here's a perfect card. Some people see this as a very shadowy card. This is the Emperor. And it's a hard card for a lot of people who come to tarot, because part of the reason we're coming to tarot is that the world as it exists, as society has created it for us, is not working for us. The Emperor can mean things like patriarchy, control, pressure, monopolizing, extraction. It can mean taking advantage of. It can be a lack of consent. But the light of the Emperor is protection, strategy, organization, long-term plans. Now here's a card. This is 10 of Cups. This one is often interpreted as a good card, a positive card. But I also want you to think about the shadow of this card. What about for people who are sort of constantly striving and never satisfied? This might be a lot of pressure for them. This might represent society's pressure about how a family is supposed to look. So like I said, there's lots of ways to read a card, and you don't have to have reversals as part of your practice and another set of meanings to memorize around reversals. You could also think of reversals just as like the meaning of the card being limited, being controlled, there not being enough of that or a need for that in your life. So like I said earlier, lots of ways to approach these cards, and this is one of them. Another thing I wish I had known before I started reading tarot, and a lesson I need to relearn constantly, is you don't need a lot of decks. You don't need a shadow work deck. You don't need an inner child deck. You don't need a relationship deck or a career deck. Now, some people love having a ton of decks. I love having a ton of decks, but you don't need them. Any deck can do any reading. You don't have to have, certain themed readings. These are all things that people like to do, but you don't need to do them. You don't have to have all these decks. One deck will do it. And it is fun. It is fun. I love having different interpretations. Like specifically, I'm really getting into these decks where the pips, the numbered minors, have really like interesting interpretations of the cards. It helps me kind of expand my reading, but it is not a need. You don't have to have different decks for different readings, for different people, for different times of year. It is a thing that people who like collecting do. It's a thing that is a great, way to expand your understanding, to allow other artists' interpretations into your practice, but it is not a need. Don't get carried away. Don't get sort of fooled by the idea that your single deck won't cut it. Any deck can do any reading, and you don't have to have a ton of decks in order to be a good tarot reader and to get wisdom from your cards. Another thing that freed me and helped me do much better tarot readings was when I let go of the idea that my practice had to look like anybody else's. When you see a video online and someone's sharing about their practice, including this video, by the way, you do not need to replicate what they do. Like I said earlier, there's no right or wrong way to read tarot. People are sharing ideas of what works for them, and it might not work for you. I love trying these things on for size, right? I see somebody does a daily draw and how their daily draw looks, so I give it a shot. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't. Maybe it fits my life, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it fits my life for a week and then stops. That's totally fine. Allow yourself to be flexible here. Allow yourself to make your own judgment about what works for you. And allowing yourself that allows you to develop a practice that is personal, that honors your connection with the cards, your connection with yourself, your connection with the people who come to you. And part of this letting go of rules also means you don't ever have to read for anyone else. I felt very called to read for other people, and I trusted that call, and I'm really glad I did. But there are plenty of people who never read for other people, or only maybe read for one or two people in their life a few times a year. You'll also see people with extremely sort of deep and complicated, organized personal practice. Maybe that doesn't work for you. Think about what might work for you. Learn from other people, but you really, truly don't need to follow the practice of anyone else. The way they shuffle, how many readings they do a week, the cards they have, the number of decks they have, the system they read with, the way they understand the cards, the way they approach readings. You do not need to follow someone else's path. The joy of tarot is that it's helping you follow your own path. You can journal about your readings. You cannot journal about your readings. You can memorize keywords. You can use astrology. You can read Marseille or RWS or Thoth or none of the above. I really hope that one of the things this video can do for you is to help relieve some of the pressure of doing tarot right. There is no such thing. But I will stand by the idea that there are ethical and unethical ways to do it. There's a great hashtag, and I did a video on it about tarot ethics, and lots of people over the years have done these videos. So I highly recommend thinking about your ethics around tarot, but let go of the idea that somebody else is going to tell you what's the right way for you to read. Let's leave it on this Sun card. What a great card to end on. I really do hope other readers join in this tag and let us know what you are thinking about, things you wish you'd known before you started reading tarot or oracle. Like if you liked this video, follow for more tarot content, and thanks for stopping by.